Hey guys, and welcome back to the Movie-Club Emporium. I hope that you caught our programming note. What was originally supposed to be our review of Doomsday has been pushed back a couple of weeks because, much like movie theaters in general, I'm back, baby. No, but I did finally was able to do my first double feature in a movie theater since 2020. I will say this, spoilers for this review and the next. It went so much better than that last double feature, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the new version of The Grudge and Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. And then the world shut down. It might have been because of that double feature, but we're back. And so up first is the brand new Alex Garland film, Civil War. Now, to give you a little bit of my relationship with Alex Garland before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this review. Alex Garland is one of my right now, he's one of my 5 directors, filmmakers, who is just, tell me he's making a movie, tell me when it's coming out, because I'll be there. This is his newest film. This is his 4th movie. And since he kind of hinted at this might be his last movie, he's kind of grown tired of the process of filmmaking, which I'm sure is no easy task, much less when you're trying to do some very the types of movies he's done. Plus, he started out as like a novelist and a screenwriter. I haven't read any of his books. I do own a copy of The Beach. I should read it. I never saw the movie with Leo way back when, but he had nothing to do with that movie. He did write 20 Days Later, Sunshine, which is a movie we'll definitely have to talk about. I would actually like to do a full breakdown discussion with Nick about Sunshine, because that movie rules and nobody talks about it. Maybe now more people will, now that Cillian Murphy's kind of on a hot streak with Oppenheimer. And then I don't remember if he's credited or uncredited with the screenplay for Dredd, the Carl Urban not remake, but reimagining of the Judge Dredd character in that awesome, again, overlooked movie. And so now this is his 4th film. Ex Machina is fantastic. I don't know, a fantastic little piece of hard sci-fi, almost Twilight Zone-esque storytelling. Annihilation, I will say, is probably one of, if not the best sci-fi film of the last 20 years, and can probably be argued into all time here. I will have that argument for sure. And then Men. I was one of the few who really dug Men. I loved it. Yes, it is very preachy and kind of beats you over the head with its analogies. And so knowing that, even though I still loved it, knowing that it was that type of film, made me a little nervous for Civil War, because this is certainly another hot, looks on the outside, let's say that, looks on the outside as a hot button issue. And I think that actually looked before I started to kind of see what the critics versus audience score was going to be. Because after the film, Ash and I were talking, because Ash went with me to see it. I was like, well, the critics were in the 90s. I was like, and I could see the audience score being very low. I'm happy to be wrong to see that the critic scores in, like, now it's in the 80s. Like at 85, 83, somewhere in there, and the audience score was like 78, 79, which I was glad to be wrong about. Definitely our theater was not packed. There was more people here than in my first movie, but Watching this movie, I will tell you right now, even though the trailer doesn't promise you a certain type of movie, I think there are going to be a lot of people who unfortunately go into it looking for that type of movie. In fact, one negative critic review I saw was just the piece of it was that it was a less entertaining version of The Purge, which is like, how did you be able to write for newspapers to tell people your opinions about anything? The big thing, again, is this is not a movie that you are probably going to expect. There we go. Sorry, I had to plug my phone in. To be. Because this isn't an action film. There are some amazing action-y set pieces in it. I mean, it's even in IMAX in some screens. And there are scenes that definitely warrant that. Honestly, I love this movie. I told Ash, because he asked me how I felt, and after I gave him kind of my long-winded thing, he goes, well, how would you tell Mom in just a couple of words about the movie? And so when we came home and Amber asked how it was, and so I basically said, well, to distill it down for me, it's the one to beat this year. What makes this movie so incredible and is because this movie could have done a lot of things horribly wrong, and thankfully it does not. Actually, it does a lot of things that are quite brilliant. Whether it be the fact that, because I think there are a lot of people who are going to go to this movie thinking whatever side of a proverbial aisle you sit on, that doesn't matter in this movie. It doesn't matter whether we're wearing red hats or blue hats or orange shirts and green shirts. That doesn't matter. And I think he does that beautifully, even as the point of the two main countries that are seceding from this version of the U.S. are and working together in tandem are California and Texas. That's a very precise and very deliberate in its picking of these two territories to work together so as not to have to deal with the nonsense of like, well, what side is he? What is this supposed to be? And again, that's not the point. You are never given a reason in this movie what led to their succession. That's not important. You are not given any kind of good guy, bad guy scenario. That's not important. What is important in this movie, and I think what makes it so fantastic and so worth seeing, is that this movie is essentially saying sometimes we use words and phrases to get our point across, and we don't know the weight that they carry. And when you get on public social media, whether it's, let's be honest, it's mostly the former Bird app. Now, we like to throw terms around a lot, and kind of a wishful thinking scenario, and a lot of them is Civil War. And this movie kind of holds a mirror up and says, "Are you sure? Because this is what it looks like, and it's horrifying." You know, even to the point of, like I was talking with Ashton about it, is when it comes to the uniforms of both sides, there's no blues versus grays. There's no shirts versus skins. It's soldiers in army fatigues versus soldiers in army fatigues, and they're the exact same. They're essentially shooting into a mirror, and that's the horrifying part of it. Honestly, what this movie does the absolute best, and it's where our characters come in, is this movie is kind of a I won't say a love letter, but a recognition to the men and women uh, who have put themselves in harm's way uh, for as combat journalists. Like, this movie is really, really about where we come to this movie through the eyes of combat journalists. You have Kirsten Dunst playing this battle-hardened, weary combat photographer, and she's with her partner, who he's kind of the journalist side of it, and they are paired with a very young girl who's she's spry and plucky, and she wants to be a combat photographer too because Kirsten Dunst is her hero. And then you have the older man from Dune, who is just kind of this weary, probably should have retired from journalism, but wants to go out on that last story. And they're kind of put together, traveling from New York to Washington, D.C. as what they're calling the Western Front, the seceding states are closing in, and what may be the final days of this civil war that's been going on. And again, it doesn't say how long. And we are just with them as they are dealing with a country full of scared people whose government has broken down and who are left in the dark and are essentially left to survive. And you're dealing with that, seeing that through the lens of these combat photographers, who one is who's going to have to learn how to kind of let go of her humanity to do this job, while our older photographer is dealing with the ramifications of having put her emotions away for so long, and how that has possibly taken them away. Kirsten Dunst in this movie, she's fantastic. And the young girl, Colleen Spanning, who plays our young photographer, they carry this film. They're both fantastic. There are moments in this movie that are downright beautiful. They're both in film, and there's just these moments together. Some moments of brevity they have. There are moments in this movie that are genuinely terrifying. You've seen pieces of the scene with Jesse Plemons, of course, Kirsten Dunst's husband. The trailers don't even begin to give you any sense of what that scene is, and it is utterly horrifying. You could not hear a breath in our theater. It was so intense. And again, this isn't a movie like Men, again, which I love, but it is very preachy. This isn't about preaching vote one way or the other. It's just holding a mirror up and saying, this is what this looks like, and nobody wins. You know, a movie I'll talk about much later quotes a line, nobody wins in a fight, and that's kind of what we're left with here. Is there is an ending in this movie that seemingly would be the end of this war, but it's not happy. It comes at a cost, and you as a viewer who has spent so much time with these characters are left with not only realizing what it cost the country, what it cost its soldiers and its citizens, but also what it cost the people who are there to document it for history. It's absolutely a powerful film. I highly, highly recommend checking it out. I definitely wanted to start with this one first because this is a very intense film. Not a lot of jokes to be had in the review. Please don't go into it thinking that it's going to be something that's hoorah, hootin' and hollering. It's not. It's very dour at times, and purposefully so, because it's not meant to be fun. There's a scene in the middle of the movie that you would think would be the fun scene, because they find this small town in the way that kind of seems like it's cut off from everything. They're just like, we don't, we just kind of, everything's going about business as usual, and you're like, oh, well, Kirsten Dunst has a line of this town feels like everything I forgot, and our older gentleman replies with, it's funny because it's everything I remember. And then we're left with this idyllic main street, only to pan up and see that there are armed guards on every rooftop. So, again, not a fun movie. And again, I hate the word poignant, but it is a very important movie, I think. And I think time will show that. Again, it's not something that is, the idea of calling this a less entertaining purge is that's to grab headlines and to cause ruckus on the film internet. And I get it why you do it. You get it for clicks, but I was blown away by this movie. And yeah, to basically boil it down to my final thoughts is, as of right now, it's the one to beat this year. And if this is Alex Garland's last movie, then what a hell of a ride, man. To me, he's batting 1,000. So I hope we do get more from him, because I think he's a very important voice, not just in sci-fi and horror, but in filmmaking and screenwriting. And I just want to see what he does next. So if you have the chance and you get your mind right, I highly recommend Civil War. It's fantastic, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. So make sure you leave. Now we're gonna do the fun YouTube part. Make sure you leave those comments. Let me know what you think. And next week we will be talking about a much more fun movie, and that's about the coming apocalypse because of the devil. Next week we're talking about The First Omen, not the original movie, the Omen, The First Omen, the prequel to The Omen. That's all I got. Bye.